Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Sox on Tap.
Tony, my first reaction is just fuck yes, let's go.
Sox versus return. That's where it all starts. It all starts taking care of business in-house in the Central Division.
That's right, I'm a meatball.
You got to bring that top button swag, baby.
It is always great to beat the Cubs.
And I'm a homer, so I always say they're gonna.
Dallas Keuchel Lamson got some beards that you should be afraid of.
What everybody said when he gets out there, it's me versus the other guy, and I'm going to beat him. So I just love that mentality. It's cool and fucking tough.
Steve, would you say that Tony is mad online?
I would definitely say that.
The White Sox winner.
White Sox fans, welcome in. It's the Sox on Tap post-game show. Jonnie and NWI here alongside NWI Steve discussing the 3-0 White Sox winner. Steve, what a crisp damn ball game from our White Sox today.
Hey, yo, Johnny, that's exactly what you like to see. People talk a lot about that ninth inning yesterday, possibly building some momentum, hopefully maybe being the catalyst to get this team on track. And then they went out there today and just played a nice, sound, fundamental baseball game, and you love to see it.
You absolutely love to see it. The title of this episode is Wheelin and Dealin, and I guess it should be Wheelin and Dealin because Dylan Cease pitched an absolute gem today. We need to start from the top. Steve, tell me about Dylan Cease's outing.
Dylan Cease, once again, second consecutive outing, just went out there, laid his nuts on the table, said, here they are. What are you going to do about it? Oh, that's right. You're not going to do anything about it.
You can't do anything about it.
Nothing. You have no chance today. I talk about this every night, and I'm sure people are getting tired of hearing about it. Establish fastball command, work ahead and counts. 11 strikeouts, no walks. That is the essence of it right there. Going out there, 7 quality innings, giving this team a chance to win, limiting the amount of outs that this bullpen has to cover. That's what you want to see. That's what we're talking about, a guy making that progression to the next level, being a top-tier starting pitcher.
Yeah, I had told the group chat I need to air it out here for the listeners, and it's still early, but it's safe to say that Dylan Cease has taken that next step that everybody wanted to see and everybody needed to see. The White Sox needed to see, fans needed to see this year, to be that guy. There's no more threat of the big inning and things spiraling out of control. And sure, things can vary a little bit start to start. But I said, even in that game that ended up being a loss at Cleveland, he still went out. There was no major runoff that where it just completely spiraled out of control in one inning. And, you know, that was the one that did him in outside of a outstanding outing. And he's been able to establish that consistently and then dominate the best team best offensive team in baseball throughout the month of April. Incredible.
Well, and you saw him really going out there and utilizing 3 pitches with consistency. Obviously the fastball, both of the breaking balls, and sprinkling in the changeup a little bit more today. We didn't really see the changeup at all in his last outing, so he did work that in there on a couple of occasions. And really that's going to be the key with a 4th pitch, just throwing it in there every once in a while to keep the opposition honest. And went back and kind of looked through some of the data with this game. 7 of his 11 strikeouts were on fastballs here today. So it's pretty clear there was a discernible game plan that he and Ethan Katz had coming into this game. We're going to go out there. We're going to get ahead of guys with breaking balls, working backwards, which is something I'd like to circle back to in a little bit, and then putting guys away with fastballs, either elevated at the top of the zone, or we saw in a couple instances just acing Mike Trout, the best player on the planet.
Three times by Dylan Cease himself, and then Mr. Hendricks got him in the. That's how many teams can say that they've struck out Mike Trout 4 times in a game. That's a rare occurrence.
That does not happen very often at all. And so to see Dylan Cease go out there and do that today, that shows the type of overall dominating stuff that this guy possesses to go out there and make Mike Trout look the way he did today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you just absolutely love to see it. That's the bottom line today. It was a crisp, clean game all around, Steve. And they started by setting the tone. Hashtag set the tone in the first inning, piling on 2 runs, stringing together a couple of hits, and then nothing flashy. Wasn't a home run this time. Wasn't a double to the gap, but a couple of balls that are able to get through. Jake Berger with the sac fly. Just get him on, get him over, get him in. That's what they did, and it's effective.
You talk about this all the time. You talk about being opportunistic.
Right.
And one of the points that I've driven home in the early part of the season, and one of the points of frustration, has been that when this team has scored, which has been a rarity in itself, when they've had opportunities to cash in and score multiple runs in an inning, they have not been doing that with consistency. So to see them put 2 runs across the board in that first inning right there, really set the tone right there, and put themselves in a position for Dealin Cease to say, hey, I've got a little bit more of a cushion here than I've had in recent outings. So now I can really go out there and, again, just continue to be aggressive and pound the strike zone. And that's the type of thing that this offense really needs to be doing with more consistency here. And if they do that, I think good things are going to start to happen. And I think just overall, the quality of the at-bats and the approach today when Sandoval was in the game was really a stark contrast from what we have seen over the last 2.5 weeks. And it's really mind-numbing to me, the difference in how this team approaches and attacks left-handed pitchers versus righties, going out there and actually taking pitches and getting themselves into counts to where they can actually do damage. Why this team is incapable of doing that against right-handed starters baffles me, to be completely honest with you. But to actually see that here today, that's the type of offensive approach that you want to see on a pitch-to-pitch, at bat-to-bat, game-to-game basis. Because when you see that with more regularity, I think that's going to be a bigger sign of this offense potentially starting to break out.
Right. And we had seen the low walk rates and, drawing the fewest amount of walks through almost, basically the first almost full month of the season. You would have, it's kind of, like you said, mind numbing a little bit to where you would think, okay, if it's a right-handed heavy lineup, which we have, wouldn't they want to take those extra pitches and put themselves in a better position when you have the righty-righty matchup? I know the left, it's a little bit more favorable when you've got a bunch of righties going up there trying to stroke it against a lefty, but you would think that they would try to give themselves a better cushion, a better pad in doing that. But just, I don't know. I want them to be a little bit more patient even further now, but I'll take the result today. But let's just hope that the overall approach improves, Steve. And this is something that can set the tone now for the month of May, since we're in it here. And one other thing too, we talk about, their guy Matt in the comments here, scoring with runners in scoring position is kind of a big deal. Obviously saw him able to do that in that first inning there. Even in that win on Saturday, Steve, Tony, and I talked about it after, and we were finally got off, the schneid again and had something to celebrate again. So Tony didn't really have much negative to say. My one point to harp on was the runners in scoring position not being opportunistic, and they left 11 on or something like that in Friday's game or in Saturday's game, and that was a game that they won 4-0. So to see it come through today, that was an encouraging sign, and also to see some of that, because it can kind of be like a cliche, they rallied and just came up short on Sunday, so that's hopefully that builds momentum. Well, it actually did today, I think, in my opinion. I don't know about you.
Yeah, a couple points there. So that was one of the things, actually being in the ballpark on Saturday and watching that kind of firsthand. I had tweeted out on a couple of different occasions that at some point this team is going to have to nut up and actually punch a run across the plate when they have runners in scoring position in less than 2 outs. So again, that's why that first inning I think was so crucial, to see them go out there and be able to execute and get a job done. My collegiate baseball coach, the immortal Steve Ruzich, used to say all the time when somebody would try to lay down a sacrifice bunt or try to bunt for a hit and it would go foul, and people in the dugout would always be clapping and saying, oh, good idea. And he would always follow up with, fuck that. How about instead of having a good idea, somebody goes out there and does a good job? So to see them go out there today and do a good job, that's what I want to see more of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As AJ Pollock with the ground out opposite field to get that first run in, and then Jake Berger with the sac fly, as I'd mentioned, bring the second home run in the first. Other than that, I mean, this is Dealin Cease's day. It was Cease day, Cease the day. He did that very much so. As we had talked about at the beginning of the show, went through with the 7 innings, 11 strikeouts, no walks. Beautiful thing to see there. But White Sox add on one more for him in the bottom of the 6th with an Adam Engel double down the left field line to score. Mr. Jose Abreu coming around from first. I like to send there from Super Joe. That was actually a good one, because we have had some questionable ones in past weeks, but that was a good one. Throw was not there. It was late getting there, and that was a huge run, at least for confidence sake at that point, Steve.
That third run is huge right there because now you're in a position where if you just have one base runner on there, and if the starting pitcher, whether it's Dylan Cease or anyone else for that matter, goes out there and makes a mistake, they still have a cushion. So that third run, that insurance run, is so big in that circumstance. So seeing Adam Engel come through in that spot and the aggression, that I agree with you 100%, that was a correct decision by Joe McEwing. I think we've all been very critical of some of the decisions and some of the green lights that he has had to this point early on in the season. That was 100% the right call there in that spot. And Pito Wheels, baby.
Yeah, he turned it on. Steve, I love. We talk about, let's go back to a point that our guy Sean Roberts, not on the show today, but if you've listened to the show, Sean is all about the vibes, and the vibes with Pito coming around and really tanking it around third base, and then after he slides in and then does the barrel roll back over on his helmet, and comes up and he's high-fiving guys on his way into the dugout, all covered in dirt afterward. That's the kind of energy that you like to see. Those are the kind of vibes that you like to see that can hopefully start a win streak here, especially since you're playing an inferior opponent coming up here.
That I liken that move and that send and Pito turning on the Jets right there to score that run, similar to a game last season against the Kansas City Royals when he scored the game-winning run on a pass ball. That kind of took me right back to that spot right there. And that was, in some ways, kind of a little bit of a turning point because that was on a Sunday afternoon. They had split the first two games of that series there. So that got the Sox a series win. They ended up, obviously splitting this 4-game set here. Hopefully this is the type of thing that can be a little bit of a momentum builder for this team here.
Overall, from this, you talk about, splitting this series here. I want to say that, yes, sure, you'd like to take this series, especially, and we would probably earlier on expect to take this series, especially with how the first, 2 series went of the season, where obviously where just all of our expectations are so far. But I will say, to slow down an Angels team like that, it very well could have been more of a bloodbath. So it's not to say that this is, completely acceptable by any means. We do want to be, setting the tone early on here with series wins, but at the same time, with it being a 4-game set as well, I think the split there is a little bit more meaningful to me than, say, you were to split with the Tigers or the Royals or something at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think especially coming into the series, knowing that you had the middle 2 games in that series being started by Vince Velasquez and Dallas Keuchel. I think coming into that, if you would have told all of us collectively as a fan base that they're going to get a split, they're going to find a way, they're going to do it, I think we all would have taken that. Knowing that they did have an opportunity to potentially come back and win that game yesterday. It does leave a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth because you do want to start to win some series here. You got to find a way to get yourself back to 500 before you can really be dangerous. But you come out of this 2-2 against an Angels team that has been playing pretty good baseball, swinging the bats really hot coming into this. You'll take that.
Yeah, and I know this is not the record that White Sox fans want to hear right now, but I will say, doesn't 9-13 sound a lot better than 8-14?
Hashtag confirmed.
Yeah, confirmed. All right, let's talk about the rest of the way that got the White Sox there, and that is the bullpen. Only 2 guys had to come in today because Mr. Cease, Dealin Cease, went 7 strong. That was Kendall Gravedigger, and then Liam Hendricks here. Steve, talk to me about the bullpen today. Kendall Graveman seems like he's continuing to do what he's doing, and then Liam Hendricks, I know you got a take on him, so let's hear it.
Yeah, these are 2 really important points here. And again, I think all of this is predicated on Dylan Cease going out there, giving this team 7 quality innings and limiting the amount of outs that this bullpen has to cover. And if he can go out there, do that with consistency, and if you get the same type of performances out of the likes of Lucas Giolito and Lance Lynn when he gets back, and as you continue to build up Michael Kopech, that is going to be the key for this team going forward here. And I want to talk specifically about Liam Hendricks right now. We all know the struggles that he has had here through the start of this season. This is one of the major overarching themes that I took from this game, is seeing him go out there, have that 1-2-3 inning, but more importantly, seeing him go out there and throw quality secondary breaking balls. That's something we have not seen at any point this season. And that has really been the core issue for him, is he has essentially gone out there and been a 1-pitch pitcher. So if he's able to go out there, have that release point on that slider, and be able to put hitters in a defensive position, knowing that he's got that in his back pocket. All of a sudden now they can't just sit back there waiting to tee off on that fastball. So that is huge. This is something that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on here going forward, because that could be a turning point.
Yeah, and Steve, you talk about turning points with these guys, and I just want to make it be known, and I do think that history can repeat itself. I'm not saying it's going to here. We obviously have to see how he performs over this next month. But if you remember, Liam Hendriks let up like 5 home runs in April last year, and everybody was kind of like worried, like early on, like, what is, like, this isn't the guy that we paid for. Like, come on, like, we need to see better. And like, heart attack Hendricks, all that shit. And then he went on to be the reliever of the month in May. So maybe it's just a thing of working himself into that, really finding the feel for it. And I think this could be the turning point, like you had pointed out. So those pitches look nasty from the stands, and I'm sure they look nasty on the broadcast.
Oh, I mean, there was some vicious stuff going on there today. And just, again, he had the hard bite on the slider to be able to go out there and utilize that in conjunction with that fastball that he was pumping up there, 99, 100. That's a pretty devastating 1-2 punch. And if he's able to replicate that with consistency here, then you're going to see that guy that went on a run during the middle part of last season and was for, several months there over the course of the summer last year, the most dominant reliever in the American League.
Yeah. And per Codify, I believe, Liam Hendriks is the first closer to record a save in the 9th inning, 3 outs, 3 strikeouts with a dozen pitches or fewer. That's pretty cool and tough, Steve.
That will get it done. Give me some more of that.
Yeah, that's it's an impressive feat, and I know it's like kind of like like a very slim, and you're putting like all these barriers on it to like narrow it down there. But that's basically tells you why this guy has reliever of the year type of shit, and why he's won this award the last 2 years, right?
100%, and that's where it all comes down to. Closers are very much creatures of habit, and they're all about feel. And when you don't have that feel, you can see it, things just look off. And with the exception of just about every relief pitcher and every closer in the history of this game, since the game has kind of evolved the way it has outside of Mariano Rivera, you'll see that from time to time guys just lose the feel for whether it's their fastball or whatever that secondary pitch is, and then they find it again, and that flip just switches, or switch just flips.
Yeah.
And they go back to being the dominant guy that they typically are.
Right. And that's like why I just like wanted to point out that Liam Hendriks last April to last May. And let's hope that we're in for what he did last May, because guess what? He was the MLB reliever of the month for last May. So let's hope we're doing it again, running it back here in 2022 as he did in 2021. Quick shout outs just from this game, just looking up and down the box score here. Hey, Jake Berger, very, very nice approaches. I enjoyed that thoroughly. He didn't really have like an official at bat until like his 3rd time through, but that's because he had a sac fly and a walk. So that was great to see. AJ Pollock just getting it done, just getting the job done. It's not going to be pretty every single time, but guess what? He hits that. He knows the situation with no outs there, and then he hits the ball opposite, even though it's a ground out, but it's opposite field. Enough infield's playing back, get that guy in there. Just not feeling like you have to get all of it all back in one to just, I don't know. It's just something about doing that fundamentally and setting yourselves up for that success. Thank you to Tim Anderson and Luis Robert for doing so. So that was just kind of like my last final thought from this game before we move on. If you got one more, and then we can talk about this upcoming 2-game set here.
Yeah. So the thing that I wanted to really circle back with regarding Dylan Cease, and Stephen Stone talked about this during the broadcast, talked about him pitching backwards with more consistency.
Yeah. Oh,
that takes me back to a little interaction I had with Mr. Stephen Stone about 2 years ago on a lovely platform known as twitter.com, where I want to say it was early May, right around the same time. And I want to say Cease was maybe like 4-1, 4-2 with like a sub-3 ERA, but a lot of the peripheral numbers were not particularly good.
Uh-huh.
And so in a lot of ways, it was kind of a harbinger of some things to come. And I had an interaction with him where I suggested, would it make sense for Dylan Cease to start pitching backwards, because his fastball was getting hammered and he was having better success with the breaking ball. And his response to me was, he's got a sub-3 ERA. What more do you want from him? Fast forward to the end of the 2019 season, it was 2019, 2020 season. And the numbers didn't shake out particularly well.
Right.
Now here we are in 2022, and Dylan Cease today was about 50-50 split between his fastball utilization and his secondary offerings. obviously with the curveball and the slider being the predominant usage there. We look at the results here throughout the first 4 starts he's had in 2022. He is utilizing that secondary stuff at almost a 50-50 split here.
Yeah.
Steven, hi. I'll take my apology anytime now.
Yeah. We're waiting. We're waiting, Mr. Stone. I love that, Steve, because, I am I've told Tony this many times. I think you guys know. The curveball is my favorite pitch in baseball. I just love it when it drops off the table. It's just visually pleasing to me. Okay. So I love it. And I love that Dealin Cease can do that and come over the top of it. Oh, and guess what? Then he's got a slider that's coming in at 85 or 86 as well for another off-speed pitch like that. And to your point, those are so good that he's able to utilize those. And if you can do a mix like that, you can see the results like today, 11 strikeouts, no walks. So obviously the command's got to be on too, because you can't be missing with those. If the guys are going to lay off of them, those are resulting balls, those are resulting walks. If you pile up too many of them, but when it's on and you can do that, then yes, absolutely.
And that's awesome because he
I think
can
you win that interaction. Absolutely.
Yeah. And he can go out, Cease can go out there and he can shape those breaking balls in different manners. Obviously he's got the overhand, fuck you curveball. And then, he's got kind of the biting slider that kind of has more tilt, down and away towards the right-handed hitter there. So he can shape them differently and use them in different spots right there. But that's the art of pitching right there, is being able to change eye levels and upset hitters' timing. And look, obviously Steve Stone knows a lot about the game of baseball and he knows more about it than I do, but his condescension that we see on twitter.com pretty frequently, it does get old. And the fact of the matter is, some of us, yes, sure, I never even got close to sniffing the major league level. I have no shame in admitting that, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some things that I can observe that on occasion could be right.
Right, because we watch this, it's okay, they're in the booth for that, but we were watching this team 162 games a year too, so it's like, you're right, Steve. Let's go and crown our NWI Steve, our Steve, winner of this interaction. I love it. Dealin Cease was dealing today, Wheelin and Dealin, absolutely. So that'll do it for this recap. Sox win 3-0. Great to see. Close out. Hopefully, setting some vibes for this next series, Steve, and that'll be against the crosstown rival, the Cubs. Now, a lot of people don't want to say this is a rivalry, but I think straight up proximity and shared market makes it a rivalry in and of itself. Thoughts on this? I know some people just don't even fucking care. I do. I don't like the Cubs, and they're this close. Why the fuck wouldn't it be a rivalry?
My thing that I've always come back to is I think it's more so I just get annoyed by the mouth breathers that inhibit that outhouse that they play at.
Right, yeah.
And
see, it's about the fans too. It's not just about the teams on the field, because we know they're in different leagues and all that shit, but this is where I'm going with it. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think everybody knows that my hatred and my venom is more so geared towards Minnesota and Cleveland, and just given
rightfully so,
the orders of magnitude
correct
of those games matter significantly more just by the quantity of it. But again, these games, they do matter. These 4 games, they're important, especially given the fact that this team is off to a sluggish start here. This is a great time for them to get back on track. The Sox have the more talented roster. Historically, if you look throughout the course of this, rivalry series since interleague play started to take place, when you have the better team, you never really see one side go on an extended run for multiple years of dominance over the other. Mm-hmm. So this would be a great time for that to happen. And again, it's all about getting the Sox back on track and getting hot here. So find a way to go out there.
I agree. I just need to say my piece here, because I think people overlook that just from a business sense, you're competing for dollars, eyes, ears, loyalty, future fans, all in the same market. Because guess what? We're both Chicago. Granted, sure, one's north side, one's south side, but it's all pretty goddamn similar geographically. You think it matters for someone in the straight west burbs, whether the fuck they're south side or north side? No, they want to be with the better team. They want to be a team that's, more appealing, more flashy, whatever it may be, whatever strikes their fancy. So that's why I just say that. And I've gotten, that's the reply that especially always comes down from the north side, that it's not a rivalry. But okay, go ahead and you treat it like that. I'll treat it like a rivalry, and we're going to be
it's
absolute fucking living shit out of you the next 2 days and see how you like it. And you'll probably be a little more pissed than you would if you would have just gotten beat by the Brewers. Excuse me, you did get your ass kicked by the Brewers over the weekend. So you'll probably be a little bit more upset about this one than that one, just because it'll sting a little extra and you'll be like, oh, why is that? This isn't a rivalry. Then you realize subconsciously that, yes, it is a rivalry. So
what's always been funny to me is that for a fan base that says that they don't care about the Sox and says that that this isn't a rivalry to them. When I was at the game last Tuesday night against Kansas City, saw several people all decked out in their stupid little Cubby gear going there to cheer against the Sox while the Kansas City Royals are playing on a Tuesday fucking night. Now, I know me personally, and I know a lot of people I know personally that are Sox fans, we don't fucking go to that shithole unless the Sox are playing.
Right.
But you seem to see a lot of them coming to 35th and Shields to cheer against the Sox, but sure, they don't care. They don't care.
No, they don't care. And then they'll just try and say, oh, well, nobody goes to your games anyway. The most outdated, attack in the history of this rivalry. So let's get out of the game itself, Steve. We talked about before. We get another lefty. So, all right, yeah, sure. We need to apply this approach against righties, but at the same time, we can just replicate it right over from Monday to Tuesday here. It's Drew Smiley on the mound for the Chicago Cubs and Michael Kopech for our Chicago White Sox. Kopech, 1.42 ERA coming in here. Drew Smiley's 1-2 with 2.79 ERA. I like our odds in this one.
The biggest thing that is going to really tip the scales in this game is going to be Michael Kopech's ability to go out there and work ahead in counts. We saw in his last start against Kansas City, and I didn't get to watch the game live, so I was able to go back and watch it later on in the evening. Just falling behind in too many counts, getting behind too many hitters there with the fastball. So he's got to go out there and he's got to pound strike one. That's going to be the key here. The Cubs, they do have some guys in their lineup that will take pitches and will work counts. So he's got to go out there and he has to find command of that strike zone very early on. So that's going to be a big key right there. And you just want to see a continuation of some of the quality at bats that we saw here today against Patrick Sandoval. Talked about this at the outset of the show. The difference in the contrast in the quality of the bats that this team has against left-handed starters versus right-handers is very stark. So go out there, continue that tomorrow. Miley's not a guy that's going to blow you away. So stay on it. And I wouldn't mind seeing the guys continue to have that approach that we've seen from Timmy and from Luis and some of the other guys over the last couple of days, letting the ball get a little deep on them, take it to right field there, set the tone, get on base. And then, hey, Wade Miley makes mistakes out over the plate. Fucking hit it over that stupid ass fucking scoreboard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think going Oppo Field is recipe for success, especially when these balls feel like they're a little dead. Steve, I think that's a something that's been pointed out. I think multiple sources across the multiple sauces, across the league. Who was it? Chris Bassett of the Mets who had pointed out something like that. But you can just tell. Going and looking at numbers, and you can just tell being at the ballpark when you hear one that sounds like the crack of the bats, like, oh, damn, that should probably be over the wall or a double off the wall or right in the gap, right in the alley. It just hasn't been there. So I feel like going opposite field can help you with that because you're going with direction of the pitch instead of trying to turn it around. I know Mr. Eloy, if he was healthy, he would try to do that 100% because that's what he does. And he's a big, strong guy. But I agree with you. I like that approach there. Let's get a pick the click. Who's going to help us do this? So who's going to help us beat the Cubs on Tuesday night?
All right, so let's see. We got a lefty on the mound. I think tomorrow's the night. Jose Abreu is going to break out of it here.
Okay.
Been talking about this for a little bit, hitting into a lot of bad luck. You look at the batted ball data. He's hitting the ball harder than he has through the first month than at any point in his career. I think tomorrow it's going to turn. Now, it's going to be cold tomorrow. The weather conditions do not look good out there. So go out there, just have a good, sound approach. And you know what? If that means just finding a couple of gaps, hitting a couple RBI doubles to score some runs, we'll take that. But hey, if he wants to go ahead, let loose, put one in that stupid fucking basket, and hit one of them little garbage ass home runs in that little rinky dink fucking piss hole, I'll take it.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, see, Sockside Mike agrees with you. Says Abreu is going to light them up via our YouTube comments here, and D-Bell as well. Abreu loves Wrigley. That he does. He had a 3 home run game there a couple of years ago. I think it was during the COVID season there. So I like that pick, Steve. And guess what? Boding well for you, Jose Abreu was batting 545 in 11 at bats with 1 home run, 3 ribbies against Mr. Drew Smiley. So I'm going to go with throwing it down the line to Mr. Leury Garcia. Think he's bound to be back in the lineup. And guess what? Mr. Garcia is hitting 364 in 11 at bats, 1 home run, 4 ribbies against Drew Smiley. So I would imagine that Tony, people probably won't be too happy about seeing it, but guess what? He wasn't in the lineup today. So that means what? By Tony Leury's standards, he's probably bound to be in the lineup tomorrow. So I'll use that to my advantage here. Go with the favorable matchup, at least historically, and put Leury Garcia as my pick to click. If he ain't in the lineup, then I will go with a guy who likely will be Jake Berger. Again, I went with him today. He came through for me well today, but I'll go with that as my backup. But I could see Leury back in. So, all right, late chime in here. Our guy Matt Voodoo 07 picking Josh Harrison. There you go, right hand. Another thought here too from Sockside Mike. Closing out our comments for the day. Andrew Vaughn possibly back too. We shall see. Obviously, that does not feel good getting hit in the hand like he did Friday night. But who knows? Did not have any breakage in that hand. X-rays came back negative. So we shall see. All right, Steve, final thoughts, and then let's get out of here.
Just quality performance. Continue to build on this. Find a way to keep stringing some wins back to back here. Get back to 500. Let's go.
All right. Steve, it was an excellent, very entertaining, and arousing game to be at. Thanks many to Dylan Cease and obviously the first inning run. So it was a great outing there. And my last thought is fuck the Cubs. I already had my thoughts on the rivalry. It absolutely is a rivalry. And I have plenty of Cubs friends. My main group of friends. I'm the only one that is a South Sider of that. So I hope if they're listening to this, fuck you guys too. Fuck the Cubs. Let's go Sox. We're starting a run here. White Sox forever.
White Sox.